Well, the Brexit-hating, EU-loving, anti-nationalist, pro-globalist, internationalist elite is ablaze with fear now that the Tories have settled on a new Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, a fiery supporter of Brexit, former mayor of London, Eton and Oxford man. He has officially ascended to the position vacated by Theresa May. And joining us from jolly old England to analyze this new day for the UK is LibertyNation.com international correspondent and managing editor Mark Angelides. Hello, Mark.
Hello, Tim. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. So, Mark, Boris Johnson appears to be the closest thing Britain has to Donald Trump. I mean, he even looks like Trump with that hair, for heaven's sake.
There is something about mad hair that befits all these world leaders. Whether it's fair to say he's the same as Donald Trump, there are some similarities in terms of both men are pushing forward quite a populist agenda. Both men have been known to get into trouble for things they say. This seems quite a common theme. But as to whether they are of the same sort of caliber and personality, perhaps not so much. Boris Johnson is very much a liberal, not as in the terms of for liberty, but a liberal as in quite, let's say, almost left-leaning in some sensibilities, which perhaps Donald Trump was as well before he became president.
But populist. No doubt a populist like Donald Trump, yes?
No doubt whatsoever. His key platform here, which won him the leadership quite handily, I might add, with more than double the votes of the runner-up. What is a populist platform? It's Brexit come hell or high water.
Unlike the current encrusted establishment, but Mark, the elite international media has made Boris Johnson out to be something of a buffoon, belying his academic credentials as an Eton and Oxford man, the most prestigious post-secondary school and college in England, along with Cambridge. Are they trying to do what the American media did to Trump, undermine his prime ministry before it actually kicks into gear?
Well, naturally, Tim, it's par for the course, as we say. The point is Donald Trump. See, I'm making that.
There you go. You're getting the hair mops confused.
Yeah. So Boris Johnson, his main policy platform, and what is bringing him the level of support that he's currently getting, not just from Conservative Party members, but from members of other parties as well, is Brexit. And if he's going to deliver Brexit by October 31st, this will be a shock to all those who have been campaigning for the 3 years after the referendum to try and stop Brexit. So for them, the attack on Boris, or Bojo, as we call him.
Oh, right.
These attacks are really just a continuation of Project Fear and the anti-Brexit campaign. They're just in a new guise.
So Boris is committed to getting Britain out of the EU by hook or by crook by October 31st. Now, is there any path forward now other than a hard exit? In other words, pulling out without the safety net of an acceptable agreement with the EU on separation in place?
Well, that's an interesting question. You see, the different schools of thought think that it would be obviously dangerous to stay within the EU, what with the present troubles they're having. But from the EU point of view, there is only one acceptable route to, as they call it, a divorce, which it gives you some idea of the positions in the relationship.
And not an amicable one.
Not really, but there's only one route, and that is the withdrawal agreement that was apparently brokered with Theresa May, the former Prime Minister, which was quite clearly written by Brussels, by the EU, and then handed as a fait accompli to Theresa May. But the problem with this withdrawal agreement, as it's known, is that it's been rejected by Parliament 3 times already. The UK is one of the biggest customers they have. It really is, and not by a small margin either. So all of the German car manufacturers, the French wine and cheese manufacturers, are going to suffer greatly if there isn't a deal in place, and suffer probably more than the UK will from any tariffs that arise. So I suspect that there'll be an 11th hour capitulation by the EU.
That would be at least some finalization and some clarity on something that was voted on more than 3 years ago by the Brits, of course. Now, what about Nigel Farage? What role can he and the new Brexit party play in helping push Brexit across the finish line?
Good question. Well, here's the thing. Boris Johnson, or at least members of Boris Johnson's inner circle, have already ruled out any type of coalition or pact with Nigel Farage's Brexit party. Despite, obviously, President Trump suggesting that this would be a good guy to organize your stuff. He seems to have the full support of President Trump, but not perhaps of Boris Johnson. But there is very much a role for Nigel Farage and his new party to play. And that is as a threat, a sort of Damocles, if you will, hanging over the head of Boris Johnson's premiership. Because if Boris Johnson doesn't deliver Brexit, either on or before the 31st of October, he'll have to essentially call a general election. There'll be no question about that. He'll have no choice. And the Conservative Party, Boris Johnson's party, will be out of power. So Nigel Farage's role in this is as a threat.
All right. We will watch with bated breath as Britain decides on whether, well, the politicians decide on whether they're going to do what the people actually voted for them to do 3 years ago. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Tim.